My name is Erin Carrier, and I am so excited to be sharing my first watercolor class with you. So I thought I would create this video so that when you go to purchase supplies, you'll have a better idea of what it is you're buying. There is going to be a printout of this, a hard copy that you can that will be sent to you and that you can print and take with you. But it's good to kind of know a little bit about what you're buying and the why behind it. So that's what I'm going to try to do today. So the first thing we're going to talk about is paper. So paper is obviously the basis for all of this, and there are a lot of different types of papers out there. So a couple of things that you're going to want to keep in mind. The first is you are going to want 100% cotton paper, and there are all different wood pulp mixtures, part cotton, part wood. You're going to want 100% cotton paper, and you can buy all different qualities of paper. Like there's really high expensive, and then there's much more affordable papers. So the paper that I started out with that I recommend buying is Strathmore. This is the Strathmore 400 series. So they have a couple different series. Their 4 and their 500 are both good paper to begin with. The paper's not amazing, and there is a day when you may paint better than your paper, but it's a good paper to start with. And it's going to get you going, and you're going to be able to do a lot with it. So I recommend starting it. The pad this size, this is their 9x12. It's 12 sheets. It costs about $10. You can buy it at Ocean State Job Lot. You can also buy a smaller versions. They have these little, you can buy their 500 series. So it's little postcard size pieces, and so you can get like 25 sheets of these. I think it costs about $10 for 25, a package of 25 of these. They're great for not having to worry about cutting or taping, just having that small, easy size to work with whenever you want. There are a couple of different other student grade papers, and I'm going to put a link to a couple. There's one from Bahong called Academy that's really popular. I haven't used that one, but as I said, I started with the Strathmore. I had good luck with it, and once I began really painting more, I moved to a higher quality paper that I use most of the time now. The paper that I use all the time is called Arches. I love, love, love Arches, and let's see, let me grab some. Arches comes in pads also, kind of like that the Strathmore did. This is like a glue top pad. Arches is 100% cotton, and it is handmade. Some people call Arche. Arche, I think it's French, so you'll hear it both ways, Arche and Arches. You can buy in pads, you can buy loose sheets, and you can actually buy really large sheets. Those I will buy big like that and then cut into smaller pieces depending on what I'm painting. So that's the first thing, is getting paper. 100% cotton. Paper comes also in either cold press, hot press, or rough. We are going to be working with cold press. All the paper I've just showed you is all cold press. Hot press is a very smooth paper. The rough is an extremely rough paper, and the cold press is right in the middle. So 100% cotton, cold press. The next thing you need to know is the weight. So you're going to want to get 140-pound paper. Okay, so that has to do with, how thick the sheets are. If it is less than 140 pounds, then it is going to buckle too much. It's not going to hold the water. It's going to be really hard to paint on. You can buy much heavier paper, 300-pound paper. That's beautiful to paint on, but it's kind of overkill. It's really expensive. A big sheet of Arches, that's 300-pound, will probably cost you like $25 for a big sheet, whereas a sheet like this is probably going to cost about $8 a sheet. And like I said, this is 140 pound, and it's right here at Ocean State. Easy to buy. It's at Michael's. You can order it on Amazon. So that's paper. Size-wise, you can get whatever size you see that you're comfortable with. The 9x12 is nice, easy to work with in the pad, so it's a great place to start with the 9x12. Also, you could start with the little ones. We're going to be doing a lot of practice in the beginning, and so the little will work also. All right, so that's paper. All right, so the next thing after you've got some paper is going to be paint. So let's talk paint. You can buy paint in two forms. You can buy paint in tubes, just little tubes, or you can buy it in pans. And in pans, it is these little tiny, if I can pop one out, I don't know if I can. I don't think it wants to come out. Because you little pans. Nope, it's not coming out. Okay, those are pans. So first thing you need to decide is you're going to buy paint, or if you're going to buy tubes, or you're going to buy pans. Good things about buying it in a pan. When you buy a pan set, it comes with a good number of colors. It's going to give you a good mix of colors. The problem with buying a pan set is that's the mix of colors that you're going to have. All the little pans are going to be full, and you're not going to have room for anything that you might want, anything that you think looks interesting. You're going to be getting the ones they want you to have. But that's good because they're probably going to give you ones that you need. So there are a bunch of different starter sets with all different colors in them that are student quality paint that you can easily get. I recommend for a student quality Winsor Newton Cotman. So Winsor Newton Cotman is very well-known company of Winsor Newton. They make great paints. They make professional quality ones. It just means that they have a little more filler in their student quality, so the pigments might not be as bright. Really, though, I don't think you're going to see a difference. And for the difference in price, it's worth it. So these are my Winsor Newton Cotmans. And they're far more affordable than the high-end ones. So I recommend the Winsor Newton Cotman. That Cotman is the part that makes it, you'll know it's the student grade version because it has that word Cotman. My favorite professional grade are Daniel Smith. They're amazing. They probably cost twice as much as the Winsor Newton. So Cotman. So I recommend starting with the Cotman. So the question then is, do you want to start with pans or do you want to start with tubes? And it's completely up to you. The good thing about tubes is, as I said, you can mix and match. You can buy only a couple. So if you're going to buy a set of a pan, it's going to be a set price and you're going to get those colors. But if you decide you want to buy tubes, you can kind of mix and match, decide what colors you want in the tubes. Problem is you also, if you're buying tubes, will need a palette. So this is an inexpensive plastic palette that I have. This is kind of like my supplementary palette. It has my funky colors in it that I don't use as much, but you can see you just put a little bit of the paint in there, you let it dry hard, and then when I want to use it, I spray it. Same thing if you're going to be using a pan. The pan is going to be hard, dry paint, and you're going to spray it. So I put all these colors in, they sit for 48 hours, and then they're ready to be sprayed and used. My big primary palette, this is my big palette that has the colors I use the most in. This is the John Pike Bigwell. I love this palette. You can see I use it a lot. It's a mess, but it has room for a lot of colors in it, and you can put a good amount of paint in it, and it's got a good mixing area that I really enjoy. I'm a messy mixer, so I like having a lot of space. So I will have a couple of links of different paints, brands below. You are going to want to start off with having probably 8. There's 8 basic colors that you're going to need. You're going to need the 3 primaries, a red, a blue, and a yellow. You're going to want a warm and a cool of each, a warm red and a cool red. So alizarin crimson is my warm red, and cadmium red is my I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Alizarin crimson is my cool red, and cadmium is my warm. So I have my alizarin crimson right here, and my cadmium is right there. So my alizarin cool, my cadmium is warm. Yellow, you're going to need a warm yellow and a cool yellow. I recommend a cadmium yellow for warm and a lemon yellow for cool. My lemon yellow it's turning green because I painted with some blue and dipped it in there, so I made a mess. But that's okay. But there are other warm and cool yellows. I have some yellow ochre right here. That's another warm yellow. Then you're going to need some blue. Over here, I've got French Ultramarine for my cool blue. I'm sorry, for my warm blue. And I've got oh my goodness. I've got French Ultramarine for my cool blue, and I have Phthalo. I said that backwards again. I have French Ultramarine for my warm blue, and I have Phthalo blue for my cool. You could also get Cerulean or Cobalt. Those work also. I struggle with Cobalt. I don't know why, but it's ever since I started, Cobalt and me have not gotten along. Other two colors that I recommend some brown. I recommend burnt umber. Burnt umber is a real workhorse in a palette. I really recommend buying a burnt umber. And if you want, you can buy a gray. A gray is not required. You don't need to buy a gray, but Payne's gray is a great gray to have. In watercolor, we do a lot of neutralizing colors and making our own muted grays, but it is nice sometimes to be able to just have one. The other you could use is neutral tint. So if you wanted some neutral tint, that can be a helpful gray to have. So either of those. So recap, warm red. Let's see if I can get it right this time. Let's start again. Cool red, alizarin crimson. Warm red, cadmium red. Cool yellow is lemon yellow. Warm yellow is cadmium or a yellow ochre. And then you're going to need blues. The warm blue is French ultramarine. Sometimes it's just ultramarine, by the way. The cool is phthalo, or you could get cobalt. Also, cerulean is nice. Any of those would work. Phthalo is very, very strong, so you may want to go with the cerulean. And then the burnt umber and a gray, either Payne's gray or neutral tint. So those all work. Again, if you get a preset palette of pans, then it's probably going to have one of each, because that's a pretty basic setup to have the warm and the cool of every primary. You might be saying, Erin, you didn't mention green. You don't have to buy a green right now. We'll do some mixing of our own greens. If you do want to get a green, you're more than welcome. There are about 1 million greens out there. I own quite a few. I've got a whole lineup of green. Right now, two of my favorites are sap. I'm a big sap fan, sap green. Hooker's green and undersea. I really love undersea. Hooker's green is kind of more of your bright Kelly green, I guess, like Irish green you'd think of. The sap green has a little more of a not olive, but it's just a more muted version. And then the undersea has this great like mossy color with like some dark blackness to it. It's a really pretty color. So if you want to get a green, you're more than welcome to experiment, but you won't need one. You can always use your primaries. So that's paint. Again, student grade paint. Winsor Newton Cotman is a great way to start, and I will have some links in there whether you decide palette or tube. This is my little cute travel palette that's going on vacation with me. And you can see I made a little chart so I remember what they all are when I'm on vacation, which I don't know why I would forget, but it's fun to make. So that's paint. After paint is brushes. Brushes, there's about 1 million different types of brushes out there, and you are welcome to look at them and spend as much or as little as you'd want. I recommend getting probably 4 brushes to start with, and you're going to want watercolor brushes, not any other type. That's important because watercolor brushes are meant to hold water, and that's a lot different than other brushes. Acrylic brushes aren't meant to hold onto water, and obviously neither are oil. And a watercolor brush has a belly that is meant to soak up, and these bristles are meant to hold water. So this is a round brush. You can see the comes to a round point. It's just a nice round brush. This happens to be a number 12. You're going to want one large round brush, whether it's a 12, a 10, an 8, somewhere in there. So this is my 8 and my 12. You don't need both, but something in between there, 8, 10, 12, something to be one of your larger brushes, your larger round brushes. You're also going to need a smaller one. This is a 6, a 4. I don't think you're going to need right now to go as small as a 2, but something in the 6-4 range. So depending on what you get, if you get something like a 12, then maybe you want a 6. If you get an 8, maybe you want a 4. So just kind of spread them out a little bit. Watercolor brushes, also, so that's 2 round. You're also going to need 2 flat. Flat brushes are just like they sound. They're flat. You're going to need 2 flat brushes, probably something around around a 1/2 inch maybe. Actually, that's a 1/4. This is about a 1/2 inch. So this is a 1/2 inch flat. This is a 1 inch flat, 3/4 inch flat. Yeah. So you're going to want something like that. Okay. So that will get you started. things to think about when you're looking at the brushes. Watercolor brushes are snappy. What does that mean? So watercolor brushes, when you press down on them and you come back up, they come back to a point. So, you know, like you press them down, but then when you're done, it's a point again. And that's important because as we're painting, we're constantly using it. Where maybe it's like you're using just the tip in the beginning and then we're pressing down and making something thick, and then we're coming back and we want it to be thin again. So it needs to have that coming back to shape. The problem is that the stiffer the brush, the less water it holds. So there's this kind of happy medium. You don't want it so stiff that it splays out. You don't want it so soft that it won't come back. You don't want it so that it doesn't hold water. So watercolor brushes are meant to be somewhat snappy and come back to shape. I have ones that don't come back to shape as well, but well, this one's still showing that it comes back to shape. Sorry. But anyway, so next, what should you buy? There's a couple different brands out there. I'm a fan of these Princeton. This is the Princeton Aqua Elite line. There are these black brushes I really like. I also like the Black Velvets by Silverbrush. That's this set of brushes. They are really nice, the silver brushes. I have a couple of other ones. This is by Princeton also, but this is their Neptune line. I like their Neptune line. The different lines are really just about what the bristles are made of. So these are imitation sable, and they're really nice. They hold a lot of water. They're really great to paint with. So when you go to any of the big market stores, you're going to see all different sizes and all different price points. I think that if you just like locally go to Michael's, you can usually with a coupon get these for probably $8 or $9 each. I'm a big one for, you know, with the coupon. I will link to some good different brushes that you can choose, and you can just kind of pick what's within your own budget. And as you paint, you're going to start to know what you like and be able to decide you want something different. You're going to see something, you know, there's all sorts of brushes. I've got, you know, big mop brushes. I've got, you know, I've got a 1 inch, 1.5 inch flat. That's really big for doing, you know, large papers, large landscapes where I want a nice big flat wash. This is a handmade brush. It's elk, actually. It's like bamboo with elk, and it holds really great water, and it doesn't look like it right now, but it comes to a great point when it's wet. So it's a really fun brush to work with. So lots of different things out there. Again, I would just look for something that is a reasonable price for you, that's in your ballpark of what you want. I would make sure it said it's a watercolor brush. I would want it to be not too stiff, because too stiff is not going to hold water. You're saying, what's too stiff? We don't know what too stiff is. This is an example. You can see this is a real stiff brush. This is a special blending brush, but it is meant to not hold a lot of water. Whereas these, you can just see, like, they're just a more supple. You can even like almost hear this one snapping because they're so stiff. And these are just a lot more supple, soft brushes. So make sure you're looking for 2 rounds and 1 to 2 flats, just depending on what size you get, something nice flat. This is a 1/2 inch Grumbacher. It's a nice brush to use. So those are brushes. So we've done paper, we've done paint, we've done brushes. There are a couple other odds and ends you're going to want to get and bring. One is a towel. You might be like, why do I need a towel? This is my beat up towel that I use. It's like an old dish towel, and it's just dirty from paint right now, and I don't ever wash it. It just keeps getting dirty. When you're painting with watercolor, sometimes you have all this water on your brush and you need to get rid of it, and the best way to do that is to have a towel. You know, so if I have my brush and I'm dipping it in water, and I'm dipping in paint and I'm using it and I look at it and I go, oh, there's too much water. I need this dryer. Then I can take my towel and I can like tap this on it. Sometimes I'm like, I need to get all the water out, and I squeeze it and I take all the water out. So a towel is really good for that, because you're sometimes removing large, you know, a decent sized brush can have a lot of water in it and you might want it really, really dry. So an old towel is good to have. You're going to need water containers. So you're going to want 2. You're going to want a water container for for clean water and a water container for your dirty water. So I have 2 little plastic cups that I use. Right now, both of them are dirty. I have to empty one of them and make it clean again. But that's what happens. Your clean water eventually ends up getting dirty. But you need one that's going to be for dipping in when you need water to help your painting, but you want it to be clean. And then you need one that you're using to like clean off your brush. So 2 water containers. You know, you can be fancy and have the nice little mason jars. I like the sound of the mason jars when I'm tapping my brush. I like to do that, like when I'm tapping my brush like that. It just sounds cool. But I tend to use my plastic ones a lot more. So 2 water containers. You're going to have tissue. I like to have tissues. You don't have to have tissues, but I like to have tissues there as just a little tool to help me pick up stray amounts of water that shouldn't be there and are. You're also going to want a pencil. You know, if you decide you want to do some drawing on there, you're going to want a pencil, possibly an eraser. I use, you know, the kneading one. You don't need a kneading one. You can just use a regular eraser. That's fine. Something to wet your paints down with. So before I start, I get my palette out, and first thing I do is before I start using my paints, I have to get them activated. And so you're going to need something to do that. I use dollar store. These you can get 2 for $1.25 at the dollar store. So those, and I think that's it. I think I will have everything else that you might need. I'm really excited to be doing this class. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Hopefully you'll learn some things and we'll be able to do some paintings. We'll do some little landscapes maybe, and kind of learn a little bit more about landscapes, have an opportunity to paint things that you want to paint. Maybe you're in the mood for watermelon. This actually was my student class that we worked on these for the start of summer. But yeah, you'll be able to make some choices on your own, and I can help guide you with those, and you'll be learning how to do some landscapes with me. So I'm excited to start the class. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out so that I can talk you through what you might need and answer your questions. And I will see you when class starts. Thank you.